Hey 49ers fans, thanks for tuning in to Inside the 49ers with Jack Hammer. Wanted to come on and talk a little bit about the 49ers quarterback situation. What else are we going to be talking about during this time of the year? The draft just ended. But again, Trey Lance, Sam Darnold, they are driving the conversation around the 49ers. And just want to come out and kind of maybe clear up some things that maybe you haven't already heard on the channel. If you haven't watched some of my other videos, or maybe you're hearing things on other social media sites, or on the internet, or even on television, when it comes to the 49ers quarterback situation. There seems to be some misconception around Trey Lance, Sam Darnold, and in particular, Sam Darnold taking reps away from Trey Lance. And let me clear that up for you. I've been at almost every 49ers practice during training camp and during OTAs and minicamp over the last two off seasons. And I can assure you that Sam Darnold will not take any reps away from Trey Lance unless Brock Purdy is healthy. And here's the reason why. The number one and number two quarterbacks take the same number of reps every day. The number one quarterback will take 4 snaps. Then the number two quarterback takes 4 snaps. And they rotate back and forth like that throughout practice. The only time that changes is when they go to move the ball periods. And the reason it fluctuates during move the ball periods is because the number of snaps each quarterback gets depends exactly on what that drill says. Moving the ball. The better a quarterback moves the ball, the more efficiently he moves the ball, he might have a few less snaps than the quarterback that isn't quite as efficient. So when it comes to Trey Lance, Sam Darnold, and a quarterback competition, there's not going to be any lost snaps as a result of it. The other thing is, well, how about the reps with the starters? Let me clear that up for you as well. Especially during the early portions of training camp and during OTAs and minicamp, the only group people that don't rotate through are the offensive linemen. You have a starting offensive line group, you have a backup offensive line group, and then you have a third offensive line group. Those are the only guys that don't rotate along with the quarterbacks generally. So your number one quarterback, he's going to work his reps with the number one offensive line. The number two quarterback, he's going to work his reps with the number two offensive line. Now, beyond that, what happens with everybody else? Well, the receivers, the tight ends, the running backs, they rotate through. So even if you're working with the number two offensive line as the number two quarterback, there is a possibility that you could be throwing to Brandon Ayuk or George Kittle or Juwan Jennings or any of a number of guys that start and play on the 49ers 53-man roster. So again, Trey Lance is not going to lose anything when it comes to having a competition with Sam Darnold. The folks that are upset with this possibility are interesting to me because I'm trying to help you guys understand what's going on. If Sam Darnold is as bad as everybody thinks he is, the folks that are upset about Trey Lance sharing reps with him have nothing to worry about. Trey Lance will go out there and he'll blow out the competition, and Darnold will have no chance. The thought process here is that Darnold has been bad during his play time in New York and during his time in Carolina. And there's no possible way that he's going to really be anything different now that he's come with the 49ers, because his mistakes can't be fixed. It's mental, I've heard from some people. And there are some people who say he'll be better because he's got Kyle Shanahan calling the shots. And we'll see. I don't know if he's going to be better, but I'm open to the possibility that he could be. I'm also open to the possibility that Trey Lance could be better, or maybe he's just who we've seen already. We don't know. So the other piece of it that's interesting is that the same people who are telling you that Sam Darnold sucks, that Sam Darnold isn't the guy, Sam Darnold isn't going to improve because he's played this number of snaps that he's played in the NFL, are the same people who will tell you that Trey Lance just needs to have George Kittle on the field. Trey Lance just needs to have Christian McCaffrey on the field. If he has those guys, let's see what he can do. And in reality, that's what I'm saying. This is the best opportunity that Sam Darnold's had in his career. He finally has a good play caller behind him, and he finally has good players around him at a number of different levels. And that can change a lot of different things, including the way you go about it mentally. Because if mentally you don't feel like you have to do everything to win the game, you don't feel like you have to do everything to move the team, if you have faith in the guys around you to do their job, all of a sudden you can become a better player. There's a couple of examples of that. There's actually 3 that come right to the top of my mind. And all these guys have one thing in common. It's this turnaround happened with the 49ers. Number 1, Steve Young. Steve Young, you look at his numbers during his playing time at Tampa Bay, awful. Bad numbers. Like 11 touchdowns, 20-something interceptions, tons of sacks. Just not a very good player if you just look at his time with Tampa Bay. Take it back even further. Take it back to his time in college. In college, he threw a lot of interceptions as well. In 34 games at BYU, he threw 33 interceptions. That's not very good. But he got to San Francisco. He got around Bill Walsh. He got around high-level players, including Jerry Rice. He got around a lot of very talented people. Took him a little bit of time to figure it out. But by the time he stepped into the starting lineup full-time in 1992, remember 91 was his first season as a starter, but injuries took him out early in that season. His first full season as the 49ers starting quarterback came in 1992, and he blew it out. Ended up going on to become an NFL Hall of Famer. And Steve Young had Jerry Rice to throw the ball to and a number of great players around him, as well as a offensive coordinator who at the time was one of the best in the game, in Mike Shanahan. Another guy who shows this, Alex Smith. Smith struggled. He was awful for his first 5 seasons in the NFL with the 49ers. He also had some pretty crappy coaching when you look at Mike Nolan and Mike Singletary as his head coaches during that time. You know, that leads to 53 games played, 87 turnovers or fumbles, not all those fumbles being lost. And then all of a sudden what happens? In 2011, Jim Harbaugh steps in to be the head coach in the 49ers. They do some things with the roster. Harbaugh brings in a really good coaching staff. And what do you know? Alex Smith responds with the best season of his career. He comes back the next year, and he's having an even better season in 2012 before the concussion knocks him out, and he ends up losing his job to Colin Kaepernick. He goes on to Kansas City, where he plays for Andy Reid and plays at a very high level there as well. That team, not quite as talented as the 49ers on the defensive side of the ball, but Smith, I believe, if he had stayed with the 49ers, or if he had been the 49ers quarterback in 2019, let's don't even say that if he had stayed with them. Let's just say you take Alex Smith from 2011 and plop him on the 2019 San Francisco 49ers, they beat the Chiefs in the Super Bowl because he was a better quarterback than Jimmy Garoppolo. Last example of this, look no further than what we saw last year in the guy who the 49ers are saying is the leader in the clubhouse to be their starting quarterback this season, Brock Purdy. Brock Purdy was taken at number 262 in the draft. Team after team after team passed on him because they didn't think that he was worth a higher pick. Well, when he got his opportunity to be a starter, he got his opportunity to play full-time with a really good group of players around him, Brock Purdy showed what he could do and nearly won the NFL Offensive Rookie of the Year in just 6 games at the end of the season. So, put all this into perspective for you. What's going to happen at the 49ers quarterback position? I'm not sure. I'm going into training camp, going into OTAs and minicamp with an open mind. I believe that Sam Darnold may benefit from having a good situation around him and maybe be able to become what he hasn't to this point. I also believe that Trey Lance could benefit from the opportunity that he's been given, and that Trey Lance could possibly go out and steal, I shouldn't say steal, that Trey Lance could go out and take the job and become the 49ers starting quarterback. Why? Because Trey Lance has a ton of potential. He throws the ball very well in terms of his ability to throw it deep. He has a strong arm. Trey Lance has good feet. He has the ability to move around. There's some inconsistencies with his delivery, some inconsistencies in those types of things, and even in his game. But if Trey Lance can play up to his potential, nobody should worry about him beating out Sam Darnold, and nobody should worry about him catching Brock Purdy. And we'll see how that all plays out. So there you have it. I think that Brock Purdy will be the 49ers starting quarterback at some point this year. If he's fully healthy, I think he'll be the starting quarterback week 1. It's going to be a lot of fun to watch how this thing plays out. So take it for what it's worth. Thank you for watching Inside the Farms with Jack Hammer. If you guys can do me a favor, hit that like button, and then also hit the little bell notification and subscribe so that you can get all of the 49ers content as it comes right here on Inside the Farms with Jack Hammer. Thanks a lot, everybody. Have a great day, and we'll be talking with you soon.